Thanks for joining me today. My name is Rajiv Karamchedu, and I'm joined by my colleague, Matt Lamb. We both focus on cloud security topics here at Palo Alto. And over the next 30 to 40 minutes, we'd like to talk to you a little bit about the work that we are doing in cloud security with Palo Alto, all the three pillars, and especially with Prisma Cloud in supporting our government customers and mission partners, mission critical applications, and how we generally enable your cloud migration, your cloud native security. And Matt Lamb is our senior solutions architect, and he's going to answer all the hard questions. For those, I go by Raj. If somebody wants to, instead of Rajiv Karamchedu, if somebody wants to yell out Raj, that's okay too. When we were prepping for this session, one of the things that I was looking at this quote, which is by Andy Jassy about security must be job zero. We think that this quote makes perfect sense and apt for a starting point for today's discussion. He states that security must be job zero. We can't agree more. At Palo and both AWS, we believe in this tenet. Here at Palo Alto, irrespective of what role you have, whether you are in sales, back office, software development, incident response, boardroom, people person, we refer to security as our highest priority. We refer to security early and often. We invest in our people, in our tools and training and processes to ensure that we bring security in front and center when we go to market with our strategy in how we do product development and how we touch our customers' mission, if you will. So that drives a lot of our go-to-market strategy and product development. So when we think about these go-to-market strategy and what does Palo do in the world of cybersecurity and cloud-native security, we are fully integrated and have deep integration with many of AWS services and across different sectors. And we have three pillars of portfolio of offerings: cloud security, SOC security, and network security. With cloud security, our portfolio brings Prisma Cloud, Cloud Native Application Protection Platform, where we are providing security and compliance for your mission critical applications. With our automated SOC security, which is, you may have heard it as Cortex XSOAR, we provide automated incident response and forensics for all of your cloud native workloads. And a lot of you know Palo from our firewall days, where we are providing advanced and threat protection using our VM series and CN series firewalls. With these flagship products, we are deeply integrated into AWS and drive automation in every respect of your environment. We strongly believe that because if you look at today's demographics, there are 26.5 or so million developers across the world. There are about 6 million information security professionals. You can already start to see that the IS guys are vastly outnumbered when it comes to when you compare that with the application developers. Along with that, you have cloud native technologies, making it easy and faster to develop application, and businesses want to get to market faster. That does not mean that you should compromise on security, right? So our core tenet, our view, and our strategy is that with those three portfolios of offerings, we give you complete security for the cloud for all of your AWS investments. And when we think about partnerships, right, where have we been investing? From Palo as a brand, we have been an advanced technology partner for AWS for a long time now. We have multiple security competencies, AWS competencies, whether it is security, CI/CD pipeline, DevOps, networking. And you can see the list on the screen of all the services that we integrate with across all of those categories. And from a program perspective, we are heavily investing in different AWS programs. Some of this may be familiar to you, and even the newest one with Outpost Ready Validation, APN customer engagement, marketplace, et cetera. So when you think about your investments in AWS, and as you continue to drive your mission critical applications and give those capabilities to your warfighter, leveraging AWS, We are there every step of the way through onboarding, enablement, education. Every step of that journey, you can count on us to be that AWS partner and your partner, and essentially driving mission success, which really is all of our end goal here, right? So moving from a broad speak from Palo to Prisma Cloud. So here at Prisma Cloud, which is the cloud security division inside of Palo Alto, ever since we came into the market, we have been an AWS partner. We have invested heavily into that partnership. We were committed and historical launch partner for several AWS services. You can start to see in 2017, we were the launch partner for AWS Fargate, the serverless, and then all the way back to 2021, and a few more are in the works with Amazon Inspector and Security Launch Partner, right? What does that mean? What is the takeaway for you as either as a public sector system integrator or a mission partner or an AO? That means that we are there, lock, step, and barrel with every new capability that AWS brings that are relevant to cloud native security. And our goal, again, is to safeguard those applications that you are building and those applications and workloads that are driving that mission-critical cyber defense or innovative warfighter capability, you name it, you have it. And why is that important? It's because as you, as a customer and your customers look to AWS to solve their cloud agility, and you want to increase your probability of winning, you want to get closer to the mission, you are looking at AWS to help you get to cloud faster, leverage some of these groundbreaking technologies, and there comes a shared responsibility. AWS is a great partner, and they are responsible for securing all the things off the cloud, right? I'm sure you have seen this many times. But everything that you put in the cloud, the host, the containers, the data, the user credentials, the network, the resource configuration, those are all your responsibility and your AO's responsibility. And we are there at Prisma Cloud, provide security, compliance, governance capabilities for all of those resources that are in the cloud that you're leveraging from AWS. At the end of the day, there is defense in depth, right? AWS takes care of all of the security off the cloud. We are helping you under a single user interface, take care of security of all the resources that you put in the cloud. And those kinds of, when you think about virtual machines and cloud native technologies, those things are quite hard to do. When serverless functions behave differently than a EC2. An EC2 behaves differently from an EKS, like a Kubernetes or container platform. I read the article the other day. Anybody care to take a guess how long an average serverless function lives for? Just blurt out an answer if you know average half-life of a serverless function. 5 hours. Any other guess on what is an average half-life for a container, a running container? How long do you think that will run before it gets shut down and a new one gets spun up?
20 years.
5 days. So when you think about that problem, and when you think about us I come from an audit background too, when we look at asset inventory, anytime we do a FISMA audit or FedRAMP audit, we need inventory, right? That inventory is taken on a monthly basis. These containers are coming and going. These serverless functions are coming and going. How do you catch them? When you cannot even inventorize them, how do you give assurance that these are configured in a secure manner and operating in a secure manner? So when you think about these things, these become real challenging problems. The opportunity is there, great. But how do I leverage that opportunity with proper responsibility, right? And all of that matters to the mission. And we're doing a lot of work with that. When we think about DevSecOps, the revolution that is happening, revolution might be a strong word, but a lot of folks are leveraging container cloud native technologies to get to those applications faster. In public sector, how is that turning into a mission readiness? When you look at, I put up these 3 pictures to see what do they have in common. You see a U-2 Dragon spy plane, you see a Aegis-class ship, USS Monterey, and you've got an F-35. They have something in common. They all use DevSecOps processes and fundamentals and those philosophies to drive new mission capabilities, and we put those in the hands of the warfighter in record time. Anybody from University of Maryland here? Any UMCP alumni here? Go Terps, I'm one of them, go Terps. The work that you guys are doing in those software factories is directly leading to new warfighter capabilities in USS Monterey. The software factories that are coming out of College Park, new capabilities. In other places, that U-2 Dragon spy plane, they put out a request for features using these DevSecOps and software factory. From request, feature request to the code operating on the device, 12 days. Unheard of. We remember them as 2 years, 3 years, going through supply chain, going through chain of custody, going through massive billions of dollars. Now we're taking not years, we're taking weeks and days. That's the power of this DevSecOps culture, and and we at Prisma Cloud are in the middle of a lot of these, securing these pipelines. Security doesn't go away. Just because you're moving at a velocity doesn't mean that we need to obviate. Security cannot be an afterthought. And one thing that I've heard over the last few talks, everybody's talking about DevOps. Everybody's talking about DevSecOps. My worry is the security piece is still being put way further down the production line and saying we are doing DevSecOps. But that's where we start to create a massive problem that you're not able to handle. And Matt is going to talk about how some of these technical capabilities, like when you look at EC2, ECS, EKS, Fargate, Lambda, they all give you certain capabilities. They give you certain benefits. They also come with a ton of risks. And Matt is going to walk through how some of these are, we should be thinking about some of these and what benefits that you should expect out of some of these technologies.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Raj. And as he was mentioning, right, as you move in the cloud, whether you're at day 0 and you're starting with EC2s and VMs, or if you're cloud native and you're using Lambda and you're using Fargate and you're using these new technologies that are out there on the cutting edge that are going ahead and providing you value and speed and agility. And to Raj's point before, when you think about the premise of DevOps and the speed that comes with it, security, to his point, cannot be an afterthought. Security is an enabler, right? You need to make sure that as you start to adopt the containers or serverless functions, and even if you're in the EC2s, you need to be able to make sure that they're configured properly, that they're configured securely. We need to make sure that these resources and these workloads aren't being taken down, that they're staying up, right? That your applications are staying up, and they're able to go ahead and serve the mission. So if you're starting with EC2s, right, how do we make sure that they are configured properly? How do we make sure that they're not overly permissive? What are the risks that can present themselves? And then when you start to adopt microservices, you start to adopt containers, the speed that comes with it. As you get to a point where you're automating the development of containers, you're automating the builds of the different images that go into it, how do you make sure that they're always secure? And to his point, they don't live for a long time. They're short. It's important to be able to make sure that as these cloud resources that are extremely ephemeral are coming and going, we need to make sure that as they get built and spun up, that they're secure. And then they can be deprecated, we can keep moving from there. There we go.
We talked about how we secure them, right? And that's where the value proposition and our viewpoint of Prisma Cloud is. When you look at these desperate cloud-native features, EC2, serverless functions, Fargates, and all of those, they all act differently, behave differently. We all need different techniques. But at the same time, you do not need a 1,000-tool shop to manage all of those. And that's our view, and what we're building and what we have been building is the most developed cloud-native application protection platform. Prisma Cloud is a CNAPP platform. Mouthful. CNAPP is not our term. It's a Gartner term. It's a Gartner term for enterprise reference architecture that looks to give you all the benefits of cloud-native technologies without you having to stitch through hundreds and hundreds of tools. You don't want to have a separate tool that does Fargate, another tool that does container scanning, another tool that does software composition analysis, one tool that does DAST analysis, another tool that does fuzzing, right? Now suddenly you are tooled out. Your tool fatigue will set in. And our vision is with Prisma Cloud, what you get is a single experience across your stack, all the way from the hosts to containers, all of those resources that you get from AWS, and all the apps that you built, all the APIs that you built, and we provide compliance, we provide management, we provide auditing, we provide runtime defense, we provide dynamic application security, we provide software composition analysis, we provide ML-based heuristics, we provide user and entity behavior analytics. When you think through the DoD reference architecture, there is a DevSecOps life cycle. I'm sure a lot of you who are into public sector have seen this. There are 8 phases into that. There are specific set of activities that you must do across each one of those. We have our Prisma Cloud platform has a functional contribution to each one of those phases. And when we look at, and our cloud platform gives you ultimate flexibility. If you're just simply starting out, run the cloud platform and run our Prisma Cloud Compute without any agent. We support both agentless as well as agent-based support. So if you want to get started, if you want to understand how big your attack surface is and how big your cloud-native estate is from a workload protection standpoint, get started with agentless. It's a real quick way, non-intrusive way to get things going. And then if you want to have runtime defense, you want to have AI and ML-based defense, then install those defenders and get full in-depth protection all the way to the API security stack. We don't just work on our own. We integrate with all of your SecOps tools or ChatOps tools or Jira, ServiceNow, AWS GuardDuty, many of those AWS services. So you can start to leverage the power of the platform with what you already have. And then when you think about, I raised a stat earlier, how you've got 26 million developers and about 6 or so million information security professionals, right? But all of these developers, rightfully so, are being asked to write applications faster, write code faster. The DevOps folks are standing up infrastructure as code, IAC templates, CloudFormation templates, because what? We got to go, we got to go, we got to go, we got to put this application out there, right? How do we secure this? In order to get complete security, we have to layer in security at every step of the way. It is not enough for us to think of security when the application has become production. We have to think about security when the developer starts writing the code. When the DevOps people give them the infrastructure as code template, let's start checking security for that. Let's start checking for internal compliance frameworks. Let's start security check-ins there. Instead of having one big dam that stops everything and we're going to go through these security checks, let's have 10, 15 dipsticks that measure the flow of security throughout the life cycle.
And it's not just a matter of being able to go ahead and have these checks in place throughout. It's also giving this information to you in ways that you're accustomed to. Back to that point of integrating with your SecOps tools and your ticketing solutions and your ChatOps solutions. And as you have more and more different tool sets that you might be using to develop your applications, We need to have a way to give that information to you guys in ways that you're accustomed to. Give it to your developers, not being another tooling that you have to go to, you got to look at, you got to analyze the data. No, bringing that information to you, automating the reporting functionality, plugging into your individual developer environments. So as they're writing their infrastructure as code, they can see fixes, they can learn more, so that they can go ahead and build secure applications. And when you think about that CNAPP, right, that Cloud Native Application Protection Platform, because Gartner liked to add a fifth letter, right? They usually like 4, but they went with 5 for this one. What does that mean? What is a CNAPP, right? So as Raj had mentioned before, a CNAPP is that enterprise tool, a single tool that's gonna give you comprehensive cloud native security. Now, in order to be classified as a CNAPP, you need to have a few different core functionalities. And those include acronyms you probably have heard of CSPM, which stands for Cloud Security Posture Management, Cloud Workload Protection, or CWP, and sometimes there's another P on there for platform. Also Cloud Identity Security, right? Or you might hear it as CIEM, or CIEM, Cloud Infrastructure Entitlement Management. Now, Prisma Cloud doesn't just stop on those laurels there. We include code security, we include network security. And what is it? Why is this relevant? Well, it starts when you're early in that cloud journey. How are you making sure that your environment's configured securely? How are you putting guardrails in place and checks in place? How are you knowing what your cloud footprint even looks like? What are you gonna do if someone said, hey, how large is our cloud footprint? Especially in a distributed environment. So being able to go ahead, have the ability with the posture management functionality to understand what your cloud environment's looking like. Being able to use machine learning, artificial intelligence, and modeling to look for anomalous activity that might be going on. To be able to go ahead and provide you with ad hoc querying capability. What's communicating with my resources? Leveraging Palo Alto Network's leading capabilities, like Enterprise DLP, or Wildfire, or Autofocus, say, hey, what suspicious internet traffic's coming into my environment? Being able to monitor what your compliance is. And again, going back to the point of not just giving you this information, giving you recommendations. What do you do with it? Bringing that information to you so you don't have to go and search out for it. But it doesn't just stop at the configuration of your resources. As you continue to build these resources, we need to make sure that they're not vulnerable. We need to make sure that they're configured in a secure manner. And as they move through that DevOps pipeline to runtime, being able to understand what's going on inside of your environment. How vulnerable are your applications? What are your most critical vulnerabilities? Amongst the hundreds of vulnerabilities, where do you need to focus your efforts first? And our cloud workload protection functionality will give you risk prioritization, looking at the vulnerabilities, allowing you to understand what are the top 10 most critical risks in your environment. Being able to go ahead and scan your public and private repositories and registries, integrating into your CI/CD tools and DevOps tools, being able to put those guardrails in place, shift that security to the left, so that as you start to adopt more advanced computing technologies like containers, like serverless, that you're able to make sure that you're doing it in a secure way, that the security team is going from being a friction point to really being an enabler. We want to make sure that you don't need to take applications back down, fix them, and then redeploy them.
I'm sold. I want a demo.
Come down to our booth, we can definitely get you a demo. Then going ahead and saying, okay, what about looking at anomalous activity that's going on? Well, Prisma Cloud has the ability to automatically model what your workloads are doing. What are they doing from a processes perspective? Not just from the image file, what's behaviorally learned, right? Leveraging that ability to give you a contextualized representation of your applications, make you aware of any deviations from that model, and allow you to set your risk tolerance to prevent deviations from occurring. Being able to detect through our intelligence stream, right? Our intelligence stream has more than 40 different threat feeds that are bringing you leading vulnerability data, information about how to respond to things, working with Palo Alto Network's Unit 42 threat research team to identify new zero-day vulnerabilities, to let you be able to be protected from some different web application-based attacks, right? We need to protect your web apps. We need to make sure that we can not only detect vulnerabilities inside of our environment, for example, the Log4j vulnerability, we also need to be able to go ahead and prevent them from ever running in our environment. But what if it goes through the cracks? Sometimes that happens. We need to also be able to prevent the exploit of those vulnerabilities. And that's also where the cloud workload protection comes into play. But now you have your containerized application and it's running. We need to go ahead and get visibility into the application from a network perspective. We need to be able to segment out those applications using business terminology, not traditional network segmentation saying I want to allow this IP address to talk to that IP address. And the reason for that is in the cloud, you'll have multiple applications spanning a network. So we need to be able to have a way to say, I only want this application to be able to talk to this other application over here, and not the other way, not using network terminology, with where we're coming in with identity-based microsegmentation, going ahead and looking at metadata of your cloud-native workloads and being able to segment them out, working with the Palo Alto Network firewalls to provide you with comprehensive cloud network security, preventing threats from coming in your network with the firewalls, and then ensuring that only the right applications can talk to one another. Then we talk about identity security. Now, when we talk about identity security, what's really important to keep in mind here is it's not just users. The resources, the workloads, they have permissions. It's really important to understand that as you have these workloads that are automated, they're going to be communicating to one another and doing different actions, that not only do you have the ability to look at what they're doing, enforce that they're not doing anything anomalous, but also understanding what are those net effective permissions. Looking at your identity providers. What are those net effective permissions of your workloads, of your users? What are overly permissive roles inside of your environment? How do we make sure that we have a least privileged environment? And then taking it all together, when you start to codify your infrastructure, whether you're adopting agnostic language like Terraform or AWS's CloudFormation, as you start to use Kubernetes Helm charts and YAML files and Docker files, we need to be able to go ahead and look at that infrastructure as code. Make sure that there's no secrets that are hard-coded into it. Make sure that it's configured properly. Putting checks in place to make sure that as resources are being built with infrastructure as code, that they're done securely. And why is that so important? Well, with infrastructure as code, you can have one template that's going to build 10, 15 resources that's deployed multiple times over. And that can lead to hundreds and thousands of security risks, making a lot of noise. How do you respond to that? Well, we need to be able to take that full application lifecycle approach to cloud security. Looking at before the deployment, in that build phase, putting checks in place there, doing some hardening to make sure that resources are configured properly. As you're building and deploying, and you're starting to build the resources and actually deploy them out in your DevOps flows, being able to put security in place, becoming true DevSecOps, putting checks there, and at runtime, leveraging the machine learning capabilities, leveraging the ability to go ahead and look for vulnerabilities, protecting your resources at runtime, together providing you with that full application lifecycle approach for all your cloud-native applications.
Thanks, Matt. And we do this not just at a small scale. We deliver this today as the world's largest cloud security solution platform. Some context. Prisma Cloud Platform processes 700 billion weekly cloud events on a 7-day average. We have been trusted by over 1,800 customers to run more than their 2.5 million workloads on our platform. Some of the largest customers, DoD is the largest customer, IC. We are in 95% of US public sector cabinet level agencies, a lot of IC agencies. If you are an AO, if you're on the IC side, we'll have a conversation on the high side on how we are securing that warfighter support. If you're on the DoD and civilian sector and you have a use case, we'll go through some of the use cases specifically that we can talk to. If we are on the commercial side, we are ranked in by all the analysts as is a leader in cloud workload security, leader in outperformer. These things don't come cheaply, and our largest customers don't trust us to protect their cloud security at scale. 700 billion events is a number from about 3-4 months ago, and from what I checked, it's probably went up by now too, right? So coming to the DoD and public sector, those that are connected to Air Force will probably have seen this chart before, at least a map of this kind. Anybody know what this map is? You see things like Space Camp, Platform One, SonyCube, Ski Camp. These are all Air Force's software factories that are across the CONUS. All those that are in green is where Prisma Cloud is in the central piece securing all of those software factories today. All those that are red, we are in a pilot phase or we're in some sort of a discussion phase. You know that we are being trusted by all of the Air Force software factory, 95% of DoD, and we'll speak to the IC later on. Some of the use cases, you might be wondering, how is DoD Platform One using us? How can I get access to it? If you are in Iron Bank, you can download our container images today. They're readily available. They're weekly scanned. We have sticked images for that. We are the prominent security component in DoD DevSecOps, the DSOP platform. We secure the cloud applications of the NAVSEA Cloud in a Box initiative. We are the primary scanning solution for the Joint Artificial Intelligence Center. We are in JRSS stack. We can't talk about things that are happening right now, but this is the extent where we are so close to the mission, and we believe in that, and that's where the proof is in the pudding. You can see those use cases, right? And then lastly, the last topic, which is the most important topic that I want to bring up, is CIO put out a memo in February about how the AOs need to demonstrate certain competencies from a continuous authority to operate. Anybody who is supporting a mission or an AO, you know how your workloads today are being used from, the ATO process, right? It's a point-in-time assessment. It's written into a lot of frameworks about continuous authorization, but it didn't have teeth all these days. So now, but this is becoming a problem. So DoD CIO put together this memo saying that from now on, every AO must demonstrate 3 areas of competency. Number 1, ongoing visibility to key cybersecurity activities. So if you are in the government public sector and you are managing a system, you are the AO for that, you must demonstrate that you have continuous monitoring capabilities of that system or system of systems. It's rarely a single system. It's often a system of systems. Then the second competency that you must demonstrate is that the ability to conduct active cyber defense, not passive. How do I actively conduct cyber defense against all those attack vectors against my assets? And assets are not just computers sitting in a data center. These are warfighters. These are sat phones, right, that our soldiers, men and women, service women are wearing on their backpack. Their lives are at stake if we don't get this right, right? When we think about adoption, the third mission competency, we must show that AO must show an adoption of an approved DevSecOps reference architecture. Why? It translates to secure software supply chain, right? So what we did was we looked at these 3 competencies and we said, how are we aligned to that? How are we helping this AO and this mission maintain and demonstrate that competency? And Matt will talk about in continuous monitoring, things that you should expect from Prisma Cloud, from active cyber defense, the things that you should expect from Prisma Cloud. These are all features that you can have them today. They're shipping today across all of your workloads. And then from a DevSecOps secure software supply chain, he'll talk through all those different features. The case in point, if you forget everything about this, just know this. We are here in every step of the way from a mission support standpoint, along with AWS. AWS is taking care of all of the security of the cloud. We are your partners for security in the cloud throughout all the way when it hits the warfighter readiness. So Matt, take it away with the ATOs.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Raj. So what do you think first and foremost about that continuous monitoring, right? Being able to understand what is going on inside of your environment. Not just that, integrating with AWS tools to be able to go ahead and detect new workloads that are being spun up that aren't being protected. But it doesn't just stop there and being able to monitor that. Being able to automate the ability to then deploy those defenders, to be able to secure those workloads. And as things are running, and as we're building that model for you, as we're going ahead and learning what those resources are doing, leveraging machine learning, leveraging artificial intelligence to build that model, to look for deviations, to look for anomalous behavior, to provide you with threat detection, being able to see that and then visualize what's going on, mapping it to the MITRE ATT&CK framework with our Attack Explorer, where you're able to go ahead and say, okay, what is going on? What type of event? Where are we in the event attack lifecycle? I need to get more information on this event that's going on, being able to see that sort of information, export it out, bring that information to your teams to respond to, being able to dive deeper into the event, looking at Palo Alto Networks Prisma Cloud's Forensics Explorer, where we stitch together all the information, saying it's not just about a process was spawned or a port was opened, because attacks rarely occur in isolation. Things will happen together. So being able to use our Forensics Explorer, using our ability to go ahead and dive into those analytics and say, what happened? Why is this important? So tying it together, leveraging leading capabilities, integrating with AWS technologies to go ahead and identify workloads that are out there. Look at their compliance, look at their configurations, secure them. As they're at runtime, mapping back the events back to the attack framework, and then analyzing those events and looking at the forensics involved with it. And then when you move to that second phase, that active cyber defense, as I mentioned before, Prisma Cloud has an intelligence stream with more than 30 different threat feeds. They're going to go ahead and bring you vulnerability information, threat data, leveraging and working with our Unit 42 threat research team to bring you the cutting edge, understand what's going on out there. Then going ahead and enforcing those rules, doing threat protection, doing runtime protection on your workloads, making sure that you can stop events from occurring before they occur and stop exploits of different vulnerabilities. Being able to look for those anomalies outside of that model. Correlate the information back to the MITRE ATT&CK framework to understand what's going on and what you need to do to respond back to it. Being able to look, as I mentioned before, at your top 10 most critical vulnerabilities. Being able to visualize what's the trend of your environment. Are you getting more secure? Are you getting less secure? Where do we need to focus our efforts? Where do we need to secure first? And then being able to respond. Leveraging our virtual patches that get pushed through the intelligence stream to prevent the exploit of zero-day vulnerabilities. Leveraging our Layer 7 web application and API security, which you'll see on the screen as WAS. Being able to do that active cyber defense to be able to allow you to have continuous authorization to operate. And last but not least, supply chain security. This is critical. As we sit there, we take this code and we push it through DevOps flows and get it to runtime, how do we make sure that we are monitoring security throughout that entire process? Scanning the infrastructure as code, graphically visualizing and representing what that supply chain looks like. What infrastructure as code files do you have? What are they building? How are they configured? What image files are being pulled to build these images, these instances, these containers? What vulnerabilities and packages are there on those image files? Being able to go ahead and analyze and assess the vulnerabilities on your images as they are being pushed through, scanning, as I said, the repos and registries, public or private. Being able to go ahead and give you vulnerability findings, integrating with CI/CD and DevOps tools, giving you the ability to shift that security to the left and enforce that security. Then going ahead and doing DAST, right? being able to go ahead and create these images in a sandbox environment, analyze them, not just for vulnerabilities and configuration hardening, but looking for threats that might exist inside of them. Being able to get those findings back so that you can understand what those runtime behaviors are before you're actually building them and before you're actually setting them out to production environments. Because we want to allow you to make sure that when you are deploying, that you're deploying secure applications. And that you know that you're going to continue to harden and have these secure applications and know that you're able to use Prisma Cloud to protect your workloads at runtime. And then last but not least, from a supply chain perspective, going back to the permissions, we need to make sure we have a least privileged environment.
Adapt and evolve. If you looked at our platform 2 years ago, it did not look anywhere near this. If you looked at our platform a year ago, it didn't look anywhere near. If you looked at our platform 6 months ago, some of those features that I talked about were missing. But we are always moving towards innovation and meeting your use cases. So we've got, if you have a use case that you haven't heard, where we are solving, where we can contribute, come to us, challenge us, talk to us, and say, look, your product doesn't do it this way. We need it done this way. We'll listen. That's how we got here. We didn't get here not by listening. We got here by listening to all of our customers, understanding the mission, and bringing those new capabilities. We have, I think you've got a demo where if you look at software supply chain, we have got a full demo capability. You can start to see with your Terraform templates and infrastructure as code, how you can start to see the application dependency and the software dependencies. You can see when you look at your cloud native estate, how our platform provides you that live network topology, that Kanban capability, that live networking event. You can start to see how we do image analysis sandboxing, because we live in that threat world where you can download a piece of container image. It says on the top of the can, it does these 4 things. How do you know that it does those 4 things and only those 4 things? Some of these newer container malwares don't demonstrate their malicious behavior until they start running. So static code analysis is not going to help you, container analysis. So you got to catch them running. So come to our booth, see the demo, get that information, and challenge us and ask us and provide us your use cases so that we can take it to our team and start making product development. We are on a 16-week sprint cycle, I think, right? We put out new features every 8 weeks, and we have a growing list of features that people constantly ask. SCA came out of customers like you asking us to bring that feature. DAS came out of customers like you asking for that feature. We didn't dream that up. Questions?
Certification path for the Prisma.
Yep.
What resources do you guys have?
So we are in commercial as well as, so the question is certification path. Where are we? What resources do you have? I'm assuming you're thinking about the FedRAMP and those kinds of certifications?
Yeah, we'll get like technically certified in Prisma Cloud to be able to.
Technical certifications to get certified in Prisma Cloud. We have plenty of PCNSC certifications, certification paths that you can go through. We have Prisma Cloud certification, different levels of those. So happy to provide you that information if you get to us at the booth. So his question was really not on the FedRAMP side, but how do I get certified in Prisma Cloud? Sir.
So in the summary, I don't know if it's going to take too long, but I just want to get an understanding about agentless and Red Seal Stratus. Yeah, if you could just put a bit of light on that, agentless and Red Seal Stratus. If those words resonate with you.
The agentless does. I'm trying to understand what the second word is.
Yeah, so I'm checking out Red Sea Stratus. If you don't know, it's okay, but just I really want to understand the agentless and how this can compare to having because you on your platform you have the agent and agentless.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'll talk a little more about that. So when you think about the agentless and the agent-based, so what we're doing on the agentless perspective is we're going ahead and we are scanning your environment, saying, hey, what's out there? What EC2s are running in your AWS environment? We're then going ahead and saying, okay, we're going to agentlessly scan it for vulnerabilities. How we're doing that, we're basically taking a snapshot, substantiating it, scanning it for vulnerabilities, and reporting back on those findings. Now, the difference between agents and agentless, and why it's so important to be able to have the options to choose both agent-based or agentless, is there's no runtime protection on an agentless scan. It's lightweight, it's quick, you're able to get that information quickly brought to you. You're able to go ahead and at scale, look at all your resources, look at the vulnerabilities, not have an agent on it, but on your mission critical applications and workloads, you put that agent on there, you protect it at runtime. Right, so looking at, okay, what's out there, where do I need to have that active runtime protection, and having the flexibility to choose whether you want to have an agent-based protection or agentless.
Yep. Yep. Any other questions? I've been talking for 40 minutes. Please, somebody ask a question. Okay, I'll get the mic.
Where are you in the FedRAMP segment? Kind of going back to the first gentleman's question, but more on the FedRAMP.
Got it. FedRAMP, where are we with the FedRAMP? So Prisma Cloud, our SaaS version, obviously these are multiple modules, right? But as a platform, we are in commercial regions as well as GovCloud regions. On the GovCloud, we are ATO'd up to FedRAMP moderate. We are doing the work for FedRAMP high. I cannot tell you when you will see it. It's been going on for a while. If you know FedRAMP assessments and how long they take, I'll leave it at that. But high is coming for all the modules. And then you got some of those like DRD, SRG as well. And if you want to get started, let's say that you have a customer who's on the high side or in the air-gapped network. For our cloud workload protection module, you can host it on your own. It's a self-hosted version. There's a self-hosted version of that too. So the workload protection module can be run completely in an air-gapped environment. It doesn't have to be connected to the internet. And even in an air-gapped environment, we are able to drive that intelligent stream software that Matt talked about. That is the vulnerability data that we push to the console, right? So how do we do that in an air-gapped environment? You can sneaker net those. For those who are operating those environments, you'll understand what I mean. So we're able to take all of that vulnerability data, move that into those high-side networks, and Prisma Cloud Compute or Cloud Workload Protection module continues to function. So a little bit of an added color more than FedRAMP, but appreciate the question.
Yeah, can you go in a little more depth in like the air gap environment? How do you get updates? And because
so SneakerNet is the way to get the updates. So because we don't pull any telemetry back, because it's like we don't expect any connection, what you can do is, so we provide using Twist CLI there's a command line tool. You can also download that and then you download all of those vulnerability data, updates, and then push them over. And unless you have any other better answer.
Yeah, no, that's a really good answer on how it's going to work with each other. But yeah, you would go ahead and basically go through the command line utility, which was Twist CLI.
Correct.
Go ahead and do that.
It's intelligent stream. It's only one port that you need to, even from that jump host. We're not looking at a multiple port. You only need like one port where you can download all of those updates and signatures and push them over through whatever method that you need on those.
And would that repo just be like one location? Okay.
Yes. Any other questions? I did say that we do DAST from an image analysis sandbox. I know that some of the DAS purists will look to chop my head off, but don't worry, we're coming for you too. You know, we will get all of those functionalities. If not, if there aren't any questions, I really, really appreciate your time on the second day. Please come to our booth. You look at the live demonstration, all the good stuff, and if you have those use cases from a mission critical application standpoint, we love to hear it. And ask us hard questions, challenge us. Please bring us new use cases that we are not already solving, because we want to be there at every mission support. Thank you. Appreciate the time.